get better at what you're doing. Everything else is a complete waste of time. It's not over until I win.
Hello. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Markets, Mind, and Motion. Let's get into it. Bitcoin, weekly, very healthy. And I think we might be looking at the upthrust. I think it's time. Finally. Let's bring up the drawings. So I've been patiently waiting and was expecting that the price will make its move in this zone right here. And I was looking for price to make a lower low and the momentum to make a higher high. And I was hoping that that particular scenario would come about when the price would be in this zone. So the RSI that I was looking for was a lower low in this range, and the momentum finding the upward consolidation or the upward upthrust as such, right? And as the price kind of gets into that zone. Now, while that would have been an ideal scenario, what has happened, or what the data is telling me, is the RSI has come into fruition. So we made a low back in February earlier this year, which was about 59. We've broken that low last couple of weeks, made that lower low, and the momentum has continued to stay upward. So there is that trend or strength change or momentum change or market change or whatever it is that you wish to call it, where the trends usually change. The divergence is now here, and as of now, the weekly candle is finding support on this downward trend line. So going back in the past, as you can see, last time a major bottom happened, this was the scenario that played out, a lower low, momentum making in a higher high. And from that point onwards, market reversed. It just so happened that it reversed and it went on to make new all-time highs. So this particular scenario or this particular occurrence of divergence is what marked the bottom for Bitcoin in the last cycle, leading to a new cycle where Bitcoin went on to go and make the new highs. Now, can Bitcoin make new all-time highs again? Potentially. But at the bare minimum, given this divergence has now come into its fruition, is there. You can say it. I can say it. Rest of the market participants hopefully can also say it. I would be expecting some price movement. May potentially be a complete completely new trend, and it might just be a new bull market altogether, but we'll see about that, how the moving averages kind of strengthen that idea and some of the other analysis that I usually bake into it. But as of now, it's a positive sign. I am no longer at this point looking for the price to do a deep dive into this range, given the divergence has basically formed, right? Can it form that triple divergence? Yeah, why not? But I'm not betting on it. So let's bring up some of those indicators that I usually look at. Bollinger Band is a good one to look at, and I precisely bring that up is because, as I've talked about the divergence, it has happened here when the price formed this low. It breached the lower end of the Bollinger Band. Again a breach, again a kiss, and now the bands have started to go sideways. And as you can see, the more the price has consolidated in the past on the lower end of the Bollinger Band, it usually has resulted in price making a move in the opposite direction, which in this case would be towards the upper side of it. So again, divergence and then divergence with an overlay of Bollinger Band, very healthy, very encouraging, and supports the idea that we might now be ready, or the market might be ready to make that move. While the last 9 odd months, Bitcoin has been trending down, so now might just be the time where the markets will reverse for crypto as such. Looking at the Ichimoku, nothing much to say. Usually is a very lagging indicator anyways, right? But is always the go-to indicator when it comes to momentum and strength in a trending market. Let's pull up the moving average band. Again, I talked about the Bollinger Band, the divergence, another encouraging bit to support the idea of the price moving up and the divergence playing its role. As you can see, the price is kind of started to consolidate in this lower band of moving average 200, right? So it breached, came back up on the 200 moving average. This is the weekly chart, right? So this is the 200 week moving average. Scared the market as it breached through the lower band of 200 week moving average, and then was bought back up and now is well above the 200 week moving average, the downward trend line, divergence wrapped with the lower band of the Bollinger Band, right? The lower range and the lower end of the Bollinger Band, where the price is kind of doing this consolidation. So the conclusion here is the Bitcoin is starting to find strength in my books, which is positive. Looking at the monthly, this was all the open gap or open air, right? There's 8 or 9 months of consolidation on top of the previous all-time highs, leading to new all-time highs, and then the price is right up here in this range, and with the divergences being formed on the weekly, my expectation of the price, based on what data is currently available, is that there would be perhaps some consolidation further in the coming weeks, and then we should see the move upwards. Another bit that supports that idea is the RSI on the monthly, which is right towards the bottom end of that bottoming range. You can see markets have reversed the last 3 times or 4 times. Back in 2018, reversed, kissed. This was the 2019 scare, the COVID 2020, reversed. Then again in 2022, bottomed, sideways, slow move up, topped, and then RSI finds itself again in the same spot. So there's quite a lot of confidence to say that something or the other is about to happen in Bitcoin and crypto in general, and the probability is that it will be towards the upside. The price is likely to see the upside. Another key bit to talk about is ETH, and I should firstly bring up the ETH BTC chart. So let's see what the ETH BTC chart is telling us, and let's bring up the 3-month, right? For the moment, let's get rid of the Elliott wave count, which I was looking after. So found support in this demand cluster for 3 months, bought back up quite aggressively, found resistance on this downward trajectory or this downward trend line, and has been going down the last 9 months. The idea was this was the capitulation wick. This was the real demand zone, and ETH in my books has started to show again, this is 3 months. We'll go to the monthly and the weekly, but it's starting to show sign on those time frames, signs of consolidation and sideways movement, right? Which is what you want to see before the price makes its next move up or down, and in this case, move up. So that's encouraging. And to the idea, if you apply fibs to it. So this was your move up, and you can see it kissed 0.618 retracement and has moved up from that point onwards, which is the golden pocket zone. So it's done its retracement and is in this 3 month of supply demand block as well, right? So I think ETH is getting ready to make a move, and there's that V being formed on the RSI as well. Let's look at the Bollinger Band. Quite wide still, so we'll see, but I wouldn't. Price action is telling me it's consolidation. Yeah, the 50-month and the 20-month average on a monthly level is the resistance right now, which is fine. Let's go on to the weekly. Yeah, so you see how it slowly has bled the last few months, and this cluster of demand and this block is encouraging in my books. Let's pull up some of the averages. Yeah, the 200 week moving average, which is the space here, that should be the next resistance for ETH BTC. The Bollinger on the weekly is getting tighter, right? ETH BTC ratio currently is right towards the up end, kissing the 20 week, right? So this is positive. Let's look at ETH USDT, and let's go to the 3 month. These were all the previous drawings I had where it was the inverse head and shoulders that I was looking at, and the pattern did not play out, unfortunately. But as you can see, let me get rid of these. Right, so came down. This was the demand block, is currently sustained right towards the upper end or the upper range of this top end, so which is a positive sign. Lower low, should you say equal lows? So that's also a divergence in my books, a medium strength divergence at the best, but a positive divergence indicating the trend is likely about to change. And then the RSI is kind of sitting in this long-term demand block as well. Let's pull up the Bollinger on the ETH USD pair. Same behavior as Bitcoin divergence, and then consolidation towards the lower end of Bollinger Band. Positive in my books. Then you can see the MACD has kind of turned bullish as well, so that's good. Another key chart I think we need to look at. So all the last couple of years, perhaps, Sol has outshined Ethereum. Let's see how ETH USD is doing against Sol USD. Let's go to 3 month, and the first look at this chart is telling me ETH is about to outshine Solana by quite a bit, right? It's had its bleed down against Solana, breached these lows, consolidated, came back up, and I would be very surprised if there is no follow through on this move by ETH against the Solana pair. So ETH BTC, ETH USD, ETH against Solana. three confluences, three strong charts, all indicating a strong move in ETH is likely to happen with a very high probability. Right. So I think ETH and the ETH ecosystem, and then broadly, if ETH runs, they're also going to run. So ETH is the coin and the ecosystem to look out for. That's positive. That's very positive. What else? We've seen ETH USDT. I have always given a view on CRV. So let's bring CRV up. This is the long-term chart on CRV. So as you can see, lows which were formed back in August of 2024, those got breached briefly. Strong buyback. There was a rejection from this trend line. Again, test of the 2024 lows, found support, strong buyback again, and the price is now trying to make a follow through on that sell on and the buyback that has happened. So what I would be looking for is for CRV to reclaim this pivot, which is about 22 cents. And I think we go and have a blast given how strong ETH is looking. If ETH runs, which I think is very likely, and you can see there is even stronger divergence on CRV. So let's bring that up. You got, there's a divergence there. And there's your divergence there, right? Right. Price getting a sell-off into the zone where if you look at to your left, the history has shown that the price is always kind of, the sellers have stepped in this zone to buy, and the price has always found itself reversing quite a bit. So divergence, I think, should be the same play with Bollinger Bands, where the divergence has come into play. The bands on CRV, the Bollinger Bands on CRV are perhaps more tighter and more tighter and compared to BTC or ETH, the charts that we saw just now. So that tells me there's a strong move likely to occur soon. There's quite a lot of moving average resistances, but let's see when that comes. There might be a bit more consolidation on CRV once it breaks through this pivot of 22 cents, maybe makes a move upward, gets rejected. I think this will be the high, which will need to be, which CRV would need to hold if it breaks up. This right here. So if you've got CRV, making its move here, breaking through, getting rejected, this is where it needs to hold, right? So we'll see if that plays out in that manner or in any different manner. The point is the move is towards the up. So CRV is good. I've actually bought more in the zone right now. So we'll see. You gotta follow through on what you preach. So yeah, bought more. Good. That's CRV. Let's see what else can we cover. Doge looks not so strong, and we'll see, right? If ETH moves, Doge is one of those meme coins which has been there for so long, always outshines when the alt market kind of picks up, and then within the alt market there's these meme coins, right? Doge is the oldest and the OG of the meme coin, so you can never discount, or you can never count Doge out of the race. It can always come back at any point and any time. But as of now, the charts are not telling me that it's going to make any strength. I'm looking at the confluence of the price action, the RSI. Is it a good buy? Yeah, absolutely, right? Like, if someone want to get some Doge, you're looking at a range where it has found consolidation in the past, and then this is your base, right? Doge is right now in that multi-year base where the demand is, and so if someone wants to make that portfolio in Doge, then yeah, this would be the time to kind of bank. So Doge probably is gonna take a bit more time, and then depending on whatever that next move is, we're gonna see which direction it picks. XRP is in the demand zone, so let's go on to the weekly. Let's see what the price action is. This was the monthly demand from the monthly time frame. Price should hold on. It's starting to make that V on the RSI. No concrete divergence. Let's see, lower low, and then yeah, I think it needs a bit more time for either the divergence to completely materialize, or if it's a V-shape outcome on the RSI, then we need to see that. I think XRP, given the strength ETH is displaying currently against Bitcoin and the reversal it's likely to make against Solana, I think ETH is going to take the front seat when it comes to the altcoin market. And what that would mean is that the liquidity is going to be with ETH, and rest of these altcoins, especially XRP, is perhaps going to take a back seat here as I'm talking about it. So let's just do XRP USD and ETH USD. So how is XRP doing against ETH? Yeah, not good, right? Consolidation might just stay here, or let's bring up the monthly. This would be ideal for anyone who wants to get into XRP as ETH finds its run and gets the liquidity from rest of the market. This would be an ideal zone for folks to pick up XRP. So we'll see. Let's just do the reverse of it, right? So ETH USD against XRP USD should show you the same picture. Yeah, completely opposite, right? You could have, or I could have just inversed the chart. But you get the picture, right? It's ETH taking the front seat. On Solana BTC, this was the demand zone. This was the previous consolidation where it formed the base, had its double bottom, and the market had reversed, changed trends, and went on to make that big move the last couple of years. I think it came and would have definitely tested its golden pocket as well. Yeah, 0.618. So I think it can either consolidate within here, or there might be the case that it consolidates, makes that sweep around these levels, makes some sort of swing failure pattern, goes back up, and then starts to crawl up. And this would be the time when ETH outshines everyone, especially Solana. So let's see. And what that would mean is on the USD pair, there's a strong possibility that we see this demand around $32 and $42 on Solana get tested. And I think for Solana to make the comeback, it would be fantastic if it can find its way down somewhere here. Might look too ambitious, might look too greedy, but you would be very surprised how patient the market makers can be in this market and bleed retail out from the positions. And if folks had any doubt in the sense that cannot happen, just go and look ETH BTC. Just go and look what ETH has been doing these last few years. And folks who have been invested into ETH have waited. Folks who have, for example, been invested into Litecoin since 2019, 2020, and maybe before that, just go have a conversation with those guys or just look at the charts, right? These markets can just tire you out. So yeah, I think if we see 0.78, even 0.618, right? This zone here, right? So demand 618, also the monthly block in terms of demand. And then for some reason, if there is a, case of 0.786, that would be massive. That would be the value zone to get into ETH for the long run then. I'm not into Solana at this point, and it is what it is. On Bitcoin dominance, it's a tricky one. It's been it's been tricky. It's just stalling everybody. I think eventually it will break, no doubt. I think eventually it makes its move somewhere here, or maybe somewhere here. I think that is likely the case, but in the meantime, there might be a probability for dominance to do something like this and then fall. And that is because if Bitcoin makes a move, then obviously the dominance on Bitcoin would be a probability increases alongside the price. If it happens that Bitcoin is increasing in terms of its USD value, but the dominance is not, then that's a contradiction, and then that's a divergence you need to make a note of and make sure you know what the next move is, which is you're not going to see Bitcoin make those new all-time highs, and it would be a short-term pump on Bitcoin. Not necessarily gold, but Bitcoin gold spread. So yeah, it's starting to find that strength. It's starting to find that consolidation around this demand zone. So yeah, everything is pointing towards Bitcoin making those steps towards reversal. Again, whether that's towards new all-time highs or whether that stalls to 90K, maybe 100K at a stretch. We'll see, right? But whatever that short, medium term move to the upside is, I think we are in the early days of it. SPX, can't bet on or should not bet against SPX. Looks like another strong consolidation at these highs and is likely to make that next move up. I mean, just putting the fibs on here. Well, to be honest, my expectations were 75, that 2.414, which is 75.98. We touched that. And we likely are getting closer to SPX getting topped, and similar to how it was for Bitcoin on these longer term time frames, the monthly and the 3 month, maybe you can count weekly, where you can see at a weekly level early signs of divergences, but primary, weekly, monthly, 3 month are the time frames where I would be looking for divergences from this point onwards. And just looking at 3 month right now, I think we're getting closer. It's at 78. Your RSI, I think it's just one move away. And then I'm just getting a feeling it's getting ready to roll over. And I just hope we get to see that ETH and Bitcoin move before that. And those midterm elections are coming. Trump needs to get more strength into the market, but you never know what the hidden forces are, which might prevent that from happening. So we'll see. So again, coming back, Bitcoin looks in good, strong strength and strong position. I think the likely bigger move, which is likely to happen, is with ETH. ETH is going to outshine, looking at the charts that we've talked about and the charts that we have seen, especially the ETH against Solana. I think ETH is going to massively overpower Solana in the coming weeks and months. And a benefit of ETH making that move would be for coins like CRV in my books. You can go back in November of 2024. November. Yeah, somewhere here, right? Yeah, this move is when CRV made that 6x, right? Just on the small move. Imagine ETH going from where it is now to, or even just back to these levels, right? It seems, consider this as a, gosh, how long it's been. So 2021 onwards, it's like a 5-year range, right? So from here back to here would be a 155% move. And I think just taking the range, if you go from the bottom from here, that's like a 3x. We're looking at what? Oh gosh, 20K. Is that the case? Let me just put the fibs here. Okay, so just target wise, obviously 5K or the previous all-time high at around 4,800 would be sensible. 5,000 in terms of that psychological round figure number. And just in terms of fibs then, 7.5K to almost 10K is the range where at a stretch, that greed is going to probably come in and get ETH to see those levels. The 1.618 is about 14K, and that greed might just push you to 15. So I think that's where when you go on to X and you go on to YouTube perhaps, or even Instagram, I don't know which all social media platforms folks go on to these days. Those are the numbers, right, which you keep hearing, and the influencers kind of keep mentioning, and yeah, it's simple, right? It's those fib numbers where that references of targets are going to come from, or are coming from rather. So let's see how things go along next, but hope this was informative, hope this was useful, and see you on the next one. Cheers.